Welcome back to the BoshNRoll channel. Today I'm playing Legacy, and I have something special for you today. I am battling in a set against content creator and Legacy online crusher, Ecobaronen. We're going to play 3 matches with 3 different decks, and we've built all our decks as if Grief is banned. We're all expecting a Grief ban in the August ban update that comes with the Boros set release. And we're just going to get a little ahead of that right now. This video is brought to us by Patreon subscriber Matt, who gave me a dealer's choice to do whatever I want, and I think this is a very cool thing to do with that. Right now, while I'm recording my deck techs, I don't know what Ecobaronen is bringing. When we start playing, I will know his decks. I don't think we're going to have full lists available, but I think we will know the archetypes. But right now, I'm going in blind. And deck number 1, I also don't know if these are the order I'm going to play them in, but the first deck I'm going to talk about is Boros Initiative. First of all, I hate this deck. I don't miss it. I will be bummed out when it's back. I also just realized I meant to play 3 Magus of the Moon and not 2 Scarab Swarm, making that adjustment now. I hate this deck. I don't like the play patterns of it. I don't like when it exists. However, it is one of the biggest victims of Grief's rise to the top of the format. Boros Initiative was near the top of the metagame back in the winter during the Eternal weekends. It was a deck to beat. I believe it was the most played deck. Lotus Petal and Ancient Tomb were among the most played cards at Eternal weekend. It was pretty crazy. And the thing that cooled off the Boros Initiative run was the looming threat of having your initiative creature griefed and then reanimated against you from the #1 deck in the format. This deck's whole goal is to stick an initiative creature and then hold the initiative until the game is over. And if the play pattern of the format is built around not only taking your initiative creature from your hand, but using it against you on turn 1, or maybe they'll just take your hate piece and shove an Archon of Cruelty down your throat, or wasteland you out of the game while attacking you with Troll of Khazad-dûm that you can never block. The Dimir scam deck, ReScaminator, Dimir Reanimator, whatever we want to call it, is basically custom built to pick apart Boros Initiative as an archetype. And although I don't like this deck, I think it's important to recognize that if Grief goes, this might come back. My second deck is a new one, but it is a deck that I like a lot, is a favorite of mine, and I think Nadu is fine for Legacy. I think the August ban list will see Nadu banned in Modern, or at least some critical support structure to the most busted builds of Nadu in that format. Hopefully just Nadu itself, though. This is the problem. But I think this is appropriate for Legacy, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is by selecting it as one of my 3 decks for the Grief is Banned experiment. Nadu plus Nomad, of course. You just spam activations from Nomad onto your creatures. You draw a card. If it's not a land, the land comes into play. If it is a land, and you just do that on every turn until your opponent runs out of resources. This build has Delighted Halfling to crank it out, make it happen faster. There's 1 Spring Heart Nantuko, so we can go proper infinite, or at least enough. If you manage to bestow Spring Heart Nantuko onto Endurance, you can go actual infinite by sacking all your lands to Sylvan Safekeeper. They all trigger Nadu. You have to copy Endurance somehow, maybe a fetch land. But there is like an actual infinite loop here. It's a big part of the Modern build. I don't expect to need it, and I don't want to implement it on Magic Online, but having the Nantuko actually does do that. And then we've got Uro and Bristly Bill as pseudo-fair things that also are really good with Nadu, and can be tutored with Green Sun Zenith. This deck doesn't need a lot of introduction, so I'll just go on to the next one. Oh baby, we are so back. This is Bug Beanstalk. This is the deck that I played at Eternal Weekend. This is the deck that I won the MagicCon Chicago Legacy Cup with. I top-8'd the MagicCon Chicago Legacy for Original Art tournament with this. I have cranked out a bunch of trophies on the channel with this. This is a deck that I love. I love the play patterns of it, but it did not hold up versus Grief Reanimator. It's just a little too fair to hang with the Reanimator part. It's not quite enough of a control deck to overcome an Atraxa trigger. and it just sort of got left by the wayside. Beanstalk was a card that people were talking about banning 6 months ago, and now it's kind of a quaint little, oh, that was fun. I remember that. What a good time we used to have before Grief Shell was figured out. But I'm hoping to put Beanstalk back on the map when Grief is gone. The updates I've made to this deck is Psychic Frog. Up the Beanstalk creates a lot of extra cards if you need your frog to get bigger. There is a basic island in the main and a basic swamp in the sideboard, so we have a plan versus Blood Moon back to basics kind of stuff, which is one of the weaker points of the deck. We are a Wasteland deck. We can recur the Wasteland, a little bit of tempo, a lot of control, big ol' Murktide. Feel like we haven't seen a Murktide Regent in a long time. Obviously, Grixis Delver is still near the top of the format, but compared to the play rate of Scam, where Murktide Regent no longer has any room in the shell, Murktide Regent also feels like kind of a quaint, fun little threat from a bygone age. I hope to bring back the eye roll of Up the Beanstalk. I hope to bring back the eye roll of Murktide Regent and just classic Bug Beans. These are my decks. We've got Bug Beans, Bant, Nadu, Zenith, and Boros Initiative. I don't know what order they're going to come up in. I don't know Ecobaronen's decks yet. Well, let's go see what happens here. Off to the No Grief playoff. We're going to play 4 matches. We just revealed our decks to each other, and we both randomed the order we were going to play them in. And this first matchup is going to be me on Bug Beans versus him on Blue-Black Reanimator. The second match is going to be my Nadu versus his Blue-Black Midrange. And then round 3 is going to be my Boros Initiative versus his Mono-Red Prison, and we decided to just play that one twice. It'll probably be fast. Okay, I know I'm against Blue-Black Reanimator. I don't know the list. But this doesn't look like a hand I could keep in any combo matchup. I'm going to mulligan. This is perfect. Keep and bottom one of the Murktides, I think. Could be one of the Beanstalks. Yeah, it's either Murktide or Beanstalk, so the second Murktide lets me cast a second force if I draw it, which becomes more likely if I have a Beanstalk in play. But if I have 2 Beanstalks in play, I draw so many cards, it doesn't matter. And Murktide's not a good card on its own. I have to assume discard is in this deck. Alright, I'm going to bottom a Murktide, and if discard is part of the plan over there, I'd rather use my multiple Beanstalks to keep it up. Swamp, Thoughtseize, yep. This is exactly why I kept the double Beanstalk. Having a Murktide in my hand doesn't change anything here. Stifle, you don't say. An interesting piece of technology. Opponent did mold a 5. Upkeep and Tomb. Alright. Please play a fetch land, please play a fetch land. Or don't play a land at all, that would be fine. Wasteland, interesting. Well, that does make my life harder. It means I can't fetch Hedge Maze now. Draw for turn, Ponder. I could basic Island Ponder. I could also just stifle Atrax's Trigger. Yeah, this Wasteland's actually really interesting. Ponder could also find a Force or a Daze. But if I miss on those things, this Bayou doesn't cast Stifle and doesn't answer Atraxa. I'm going to basic Island Ponder. Come on deck. Polluted Delta is good. Glorian Revealed is another land for later that I don't really care about. Alright, I'll take the Delta now. That plays around the Wasteland. If Animate Dead is the Reanimate, we could stifle the Bring the Creature Back trigger. If it's a Reanimate, I could stifle the Atraxa trigger and at least not have to deal with all the cards. And if it's just some shit like Psychic Frog, then I don't even care. He's saying I don't care about Psychic Frog isn't entirely genuine. Obviously, that card is really good. Okay, there's a Glorian Revealed on top of my deck right now. I don't want that. I'm going to fetch. If I get Tropical Island, I can keep Stifle up and keep green sources available. Then he could waste me off black. Would I rather be wasted off black or green? I could also stifle the Wasteland, but then Atraxa is just a full-ass Atraxa, where Murderous Cut could stabilize me otherwise. I'm going to get Tropical Island. Okay, up the Beanstalk, found Brainstorm. Now I can Emergency Brainstorm if I feel like Stifle's not going to be good enough. Still keeping the Wasteland available. No reason to waste a tapped land in my end step. Frog is getting moving here. I'm not going to stifle the draw trigger, not yet. We're not that desperate. Deck's full of removal and Bowmasters and stuff. This is going to run away quickly, though, if I can't figure it out. Animate Dead, sick. Alright. That resolves. Stifle this. Please don't have a daze. We did it! Okay, the perfect answer. The one of Stifle continues to be busted 8 months after Eternal Weekend. Double Wasteland's pretty busted too, though. If I just draw a blue source right now and send the Murktide draw card, yuck. Alright. Ponder it is. Wasteland Lorien revealed. This is a Murktide next turn. I guess I have to take it. It is shields down this turn, though. Polluted Delta. Oh no! Boo! Last 2 cards in hand. I mean, the land didn't matter. I don't have a daze. But now we have to deal with this Atraxa in addition to everything else that's happening. I was main decking a Nile Spellbomb in my list when I started to tune it for this playoff, but I was like, nah, Reanimator's out. So I don't have that. Okay, we're getting a fetch here. Just thinning an Underground Sea out of the way. Bunch of good cards over there, including a Daze and a Force of Will. Yeah, Force of Will is going to be really good. That stops me from... Oh, there's literally just an Archon right now, because Reanimate and the Frog is a discard outlet. Yeah, we're dead. Okay, took Brazen Borrower over shoving Archon right now. Notice I have Murktide in hand, so that makes some sense. There's also a Polluted Delta in the hand that I clicked away before I fully processed what was kept. Okay, I'm drawing Lorien revealed. 6, 7, discard 6 cards, 13. I'm not quite dead on board, but it's not good. I might need to just dig for a removal spell at this point. Brainstorm. Thinking about Force of Will over there. Or what did we draw? Alright, Entomb was what was drawn off Psychic Frog. That makes some sense. That means Archon is coming. Oof. Alright. We've lost this one. Okay. Just a little behind. Nile Spellbomb comes in. Surgical, Fluster, Basic Swamp, Carpet of Flowers, Veil of Summer. Yeah, this deck is probably a griefless ReScaminator attempt. It probably has a good sideboard pivot. We saw the Psychic Frog. Frog was an all-star there. Opponent did need every card at the end of that to get the Atraxa rolling, and Frog drew, what, 2 or 3? Fair enough. All right, Witherbloom Command not holding up here. The Witherbloom Command was the hardest thing to predict for, because Bowmaster is not particularly good right now in Legacy, but that's because ReScaminator doesn't care about it, and once Grief is banned, we might see a resurgence of Bowmaster. I think I'm going to shave a Wasteland for the Swamp. That's going to be a 1-for-1 trade. Same land count, but I'm not really interested in Wastelanding this opponent. I could back off Murktide a little bit. Psychic Frog's always going to be good. Up the Beanstalk does tend to come out in some number versus combo decks where you don't have a lot of time to leverage it. I wonder if I actually want this Force of Negation or not. Obviously, it's another free interaction spell versus the busted half of the deck, but if there's a pivot coming... And I'm bringing in stuff like Surgical and Nile Spellbomb. I don't think I want that. I think I'm going to shave a Lorien revealed also. I'm actually going to go down another Beanstalk. This is my plan. Let's try it. On the draw, I'll change the dazes into other spells again if we get a game 3. Okay, I will keep this hand. And I'm just going to Misty Rainforest pass. I'm going to try to get some cheese value on the Stifle. Last game, he just went Swamp. Thoughtseize, which is going to be whack if it happens. Okay, that is not a Swamp. I was just going to say I could fetch Hedge Maze in the end step, but I can't because it's in my hand. Okay, fetch, Tropical Island, Carpet of Flowers. I'm going to second main this Brainstorm off the Carpet mana. That puts the Hedge Maze back in my deck, leaves up the Stifle. Ooh, or I could just Thoughtseize my opponent now. Put back Hedge Maze, and I'm actually going to put back Hedge Maze and one of the Force of Wills. And I could still Thoughtseize now. I'm gonna. Do I want to get Bayou and keep my colors rounded out? I think Carpet of Flowers is already doing that, but Carpet of Flowers can't cast Veil of Summer on their turn. Yeah, I'm just going to Thoughtseize now. Frog, Murktide, triple Wasteland. Okie dokie. Well, I'll take this Frog, I guess. That is certainly a plan. Carpet of Flowers looking real good. Wasteland number 1. Goodbye land. Murderous Cut. Right, make a blue, cast Ponder. Up the Beanstalk. That's what I wanted in my life. Do not shuffle. Jam this other Beanstalk. Hope they didn't draw Daze or Force of Will. We're in there. Okay, now Force of Will's a cantrip. Murderous Cut's a cantrip. I still don't care about Wasteland. And I have another Carpet coming. Frog's fine, I can cut that. But also Edict it. Which one am I more worried about? I'm going to use Carpet's ability and make green and play the second Carpet. I think I'd rather Edict now. I just currently have full control over where an Edict goes, but they might have 2 creatures later, versus getting the cantrip off Murderous Cut. Brainstorm happens. That was a good Brainstorm. Found a Scalding Tarn. Probably moving away some of these wastelands at this point. Animate Dead the Frog. I think that's fine. I could stifle it, or I could just cut it. The Stifle is also my blue card, and because of how Animate Dead works, opponent has to discard a card before this frog even does damage. Ooh, okay. Yes, make black. Yes, make blue. I'm going to cast this Orcish Bowmasters and deal 1 to my opponent. And then I'll just pass. I'm going to let opponent discard a card to try to make Frog do anything before I commit the Murderous Cut. Frog's attacking. Block with Orc Army. Discarded Undercity Sewers. I'm going to Murderous Cut this now. Just got 1 little extra card off the exchange. Still holding Force of Will, which is also a cantrip. I love a Brainstorm. All right, Frog's gone. Took Undercity Sewers with it. And this is going to be the follow-up Murktide Regent, which I'm going to Force of Will, pitching the Stifle. Been holding on to this all day. I'll Spellbomb. Okay. Feel like we're turning a corner here. Oh, yeah. All right. Blue, blue, black, black off the carpets. Blue, blue, black, black. I could Brainstorm. If I find something like Lorien Revealed, I'm having a good time. I could also hold my Brainstorm. I'm just going to jam it. There's enough high-end bangers here. I don't think I need Force of Will. I'm going to put back Force and Cut, and then cast the rest of my hand. Bowmaster. Or I could flash in Bowmaster, or I could push the extra damage. I'm going to Frog, Nile Spellbomb, hold Bowmaster. I don't think the extra 1 point of damage is going to matter compared to having a card in my hand or a surprise snipe on their cantrip. And if I play Bowmaster, I can't cantrip off Spellbomb. Scalding Tarn, go. I'm not going to do anything here that I don't have to. Right. Petty Thefting my Frog. It's in my hand. It's fine. It'll be right back. Blue, blue. Black, black. Refire the Frog. That could have happened second main, and it would have been fine. Alright, now I have the extra mana to Bowmaster for the extra damage. And attack. Opponent's got 2 unknowns in hand about to draw. They may or may not be Wasteland. Brainstormed earlier after I saw the Wastelands. Cool. Alright, just overwhelmed with permanents, and we did not see any signals of a Reanimator deck still being there. That doesn't mean it's out, but it is noteworthy that we didn't see an Entomb or an Atrax or anything of the sort. Wasn't even attempted. The Animate Dead was still in, but like we saw, just bringing back Psychic Frog 2 or 3 times might be enough to run away with the game. That's really cool. I think Daze can become Force Negation on the draw. My other Daze could become Dismember. Force of Vigor kills Animate Dead, a card that we've seen many copies of, but I don't think that's actually a good idea. I could get Lorien Revealed back, or I could just play with 1 Daze. Yeah, I'm going to play with 1 Daze in the deck. Here we go. Bug Beans is all about spicy one-ofs. I like this hand well enough. I like the Thoughtseize. I like the Fatal Push versus the Fair Plan. Keep. It's so nice not having to think about getting griefed. Like, even if opponent Thoughtseizes me here, that taps him out for the turn, there's not a creature to reanimate in the graveyard, etc. Yeah, see? Like, that's really good, but also is fine. I would expect to see my Thoughtseize go, but if his plan is something more Psychic Frog-centric, we might see my Frog or my Push go instead. But Thoughtseize takes anything. I would expect to see Thoughtseize go. Yep. Another Ponder. I will cast the Ponder that we all know about. Veil of Summer might be good someday. Okay. Let's see if Entomb Reanimate happens from 2 mana here. Nope, Psychic Frog, which opponent knew about. Fatal Push and still cast this, so there must be a plan. I'm glad I have this Veil of Summer. Daze. Okay, do we have double Daze, or it must be double Daze. I am not going to Veil of Summer the Daze, because then Veil of Summer gets dazed by the second Daze, and just paying for Daze does the same thing. Okay, sure. Opponent has bet that Psychic Frog in play is worth all other permanents that he controls. Might be right. We'll find out soon. There's 2 Underground Seas in hand. And Frog's doing frog stuff. I really wish that Double Days was just Force of Will. The Veil of Summer would have blown out. Now we actually have to play Magic. Boring. I do play a bunch of removal. I have a bunch of stuff that could block. We could play this game still. Did not shuffle that Ponder. Okay, options include Ponder looking for a removal spell. I could cycle Lorien Revealed, then play Frog. I could just play Frog without cycling Lorien Revealed. I could use Brainstorm and Ponder and Lorien Revealed to try to find a removal spell. I think I would like to Ponder here off of my green source. Found another Frog and a Surgical Extraction. Also my second land. What do these cards do? I mean, Surgical keeps me from just losing straight up to a Reanimation Pivot. If I keep the Surgical, though, then I have to cycle Lorien Revealed to hit a land drop this turn, and I'm definitely not getting a removal spell. Okay, so opponent will have 6 cards in hand to my 5, which means that if we just get into Reckless Frog on Frog combat, I will lose that fight. Okay, I think I'm going to take the land and just cast my Frog and commit to taking some damage here. Okay, I have a Frog. It can be 5/6. You have a Frog. It can be 7/8. Yeah, your Frog's a lot bigger than mine. Yeah, this is definitely an aspect of fair Magic moving forward, even post-Grief ban. I mean, they're not going to ban Psychic Frog, and I don't think they should. Card seems dope. But having removal in your deck that works against Psychic Frog is going to be important. And knowing how to play Psychic Frog mirrors is going to matter a lot. I'm just not going to block. There's no good outcome here. And chumping to stop drawing 1 card doesn't seem worth it. Because then I've spent the card Psychic Frog that I've already spent mana on to stop a random card in their hand that they put no investment into yet. Because it doesn't make sense on any sort of exchange level. Okay, now we both have 5 cards in hand. Our Frogs would just touch butts if I attack, which is not a good deal for me. There is a Surgical Extraction on top of my deck that I'm quite sure I don't want. I'm going to cast a Ponder. I'd love a removal spell. Sheoldred's Edict qualifies as one of those. Would have been better last turn. Okay, do not shuffle. Do I want to play my second Frog and wait? If I wait, I can have Veil of Summer up next turn when I go for Sheoldred's Edict. But that is a full turn of Frog damage. I'm going to play my other Frog. I'm going to try to catch up and then turn it around on a big turn where I kill one of his things and get through for damage and stuff. But him having a combo engine in the deck is concerning because these 6 that are about to become 8 cards in hand. Bad news for me. I cannot do anything clever here with a double block or a block each. I mean, I guess technically he'd have to discard first in the exchange, but that doesn't change anything. He just has way more cards in hand than I do. Yeah, that Double Days go down to no non-Frog permanents. Turned out to be worth it for sure. Just Frog just runs away. I've been slightly behind the whole time. I mean, that's really bad for me too. I could still cast my Brainstorms and stuff, but those aren't necessarily useful. I guess I get to just attack here. See off, hope for the best. Here I go. The race is on. I don't expect to block. I get to draw 2. Brainstorm, Flusterstorm. Really want my basic Swamp to show up. Brainstorm. None of these cards are useful. Yeah, Harbinger of the Seas. Solid animal. I'm going to get rid of Force of Negation and Force of Will. Or Force of Negation and Veil. Yeah, those seem like the worst cards in my hand. And cycle Lorien Revealed. Might as well get Tropical Island. It just doesn't matter. It's still an island either way, and if I get out of the Harbinger, my colors are better. Okay. Game's getting weird. I am comfortable versus the Reanimator side of the deck. I feel like the interaction in my hand is really good, but I am getting frogged out here really bad. They're representing 11 damage right now if they want to go all in. Yep, here comes everything. It's just a race. It moved into his end step. I assume we're going to see something discarded to Frog, because you're going to have to clean up a card anyway. Might as well make the Frog bigger. Yep, discarded to Reanimate. Which is disappointing, because that's the angle of the deck that I can actually interact with. Fatal Push. How about you chill? Okay, so I could force this pitching Brainstorm. I can attack for 8 this turn, which is not lethal. Opponent does have lethal next turn. Yeah, I guess I just Force of Will and lose Brainstorm. I just want to be able to fight back if there's a fight here and keep the Flusterstorm. Okay, draw for turn. Basic Swamp. Basic Swamp. Right. Flusterstorm was correct to hold on to. Get rid of you. I'm still way behind. Basic Swamp. Basic Swamp. Basic Swamp. Draw that card. That doesn't help. Now I can attack with both frogs, try to spike the swamp and stay alive. I cannot attack with both frogs or else I'm just dead on board. So I'm going to attack with one frog, which now puts me behind. Edge Maze. Okay. I don't think I should even play these lands. I think I should keep them as frog fodder and try to have a relevant game object in combat. Cycling Troll. Yeah, I don't have any of those. Can't get my swamp that way. Got Undercity Sewers, which is just an island. Might just be out of swamps to get. Alright, we lose. GG. Okay, yeah, just got buried by a Psychic Frog in a Psychic Frog mirror. We had one fight on turn 2, where my Veil of Summer backup could not protect my spell. So that was a tight decision that really only came down to one thing. Decks in the post-Grief era are going to have to be able to answer Psychic Frog. On to the next deck. I'm on the play for round 2, where his deck is blue-black mid-range. That's how he described it to me. That's all the information I have. I don't know if that's like another Goyf Bowmaster deck or if it's bigger than that. I am going to keep this hand, though. It has Ponder and Uro. And I'm going to Tropical Island Ponder. Lands and Teferi are all things that I like. I'll take the land and put the Teferi under it. Mishra's Bauble. Okay, so this deck seems pretty sleek. Yeah, alright. Wasteland Mishra's Bauble in a deck that was called mid-range to me. Windswept Teeth go. I have a basic forest on top of my deck. The Ponder I kept was perfect to fend off this start. There's one of each basic land in my list. So Basic Island is the one I would want here that I don't have. I could shove Bill and make opponent answer it, or I could just wait. I'm going to wait. We are back in the universe where I have to think about this Brainstorm, and anytime he has 2 mana up, I have to consider if this is worth casting. There is both a Hedge Maze and a Meticulous Archive in this list, though. Alright, Nether Goyf confirmed. I wonder if this is going to be a Stifle deck. How low to the ground is this thing? I'm fetching Hedge Maze. Let's find out. Yep, getting stifled. Yep, sure. You got me. Okay. That's what's going on over there. A Zenith. Okay. I can just get a Delighted Halfling with that. I know I'm playing into Daze, but I have to just do the most powerful thing I can do. Yeah, that's fine. Let's get him out of there. I don't want a Dryad Arbor on this. Ponder. And another Wasteland, of course. Okay, now I'm worried. Come on, land. We're dead. I'm not going to concede, but we are in a lot of trouble now. Just 4 pieces of mana denial in the first 2 turns of the game will tend to do that to you. And this looks like a Murktide Regent coming. Remember when I said what a quaint, fun little thing Murktide Regent is? Never mind. I hate it. Put it away. Card sucks. Okay. Well, we have some opportunity to play the game here. I think Brainstorm is a better opportunity than Bristly Bill is. Okay, I'm going to Brainstorm and hopefully hit Delighted Halfling, I guess. Plow is good someday. It's way slow, though. I'm way behind where I need to be. I think I'm going to put back Uro and Ponder. And then next turn, my turn is going to be Springheart and Antuco, fetch land, make a blocker, fetch, make a blocker, plow the Murktide. Try to stabilize it, 1 or 2. If opponent can just put 2 card types in his graveyard right now, he wins. Or it would need 3 card types. Okay, Bowmaster. I'm at 9. I go to 2. Yeah, even then Antuco doesn't stabilize versus this. And he's still got 4 cards in hand. Just like a Daze, a Force, a Fatal Push. It doesn't even matter. Okay. Did not play that game at all. Alright. Carpet of Flowers is for matchups like this one. Plows and Endings in the sideboard. A little extra endurance here. Force of Will does not matter. What else do I want to interact with? Sylvan Safekeeper might be mid. I know we have the loop with Safekeeper and stuff, but it doesn't matter. I also don't think I need Thassa's Oracle in this matchup. If I start doing stuff, I'll just win with overwhelming card advantage. And that is a sideboard plan. The Veil of Summers, I have to assume there's black removal in here. There might even be some Brazen Borrowers and stuff, but I just don't think that's the game plan I'm building towards. Let's go. Just become Band Control. The best mode any deck could ever have. Okay, I'll keep. I got the whole spread in front of me. multiple shots at Nomad, even if he's got the removal. I have to fetch a non-basic here, deciding between Savannah and Tundra. I think I want Savannah, because that gets me closer to the Endurance. Basic Island, Ponder. I'd love to draw a Delighted Halfling this turn. Another Endurance, okay. Attack with Nomads. I'm going to play the other Nomads. And then I'm going to fetch Hedge Maze. I'm going to do it now before Stifle comes up. Swords of Plowshare is right on the top. Let's go. Marsh Flats is not Wasteland. I like that. Good news. Psychic Frog. Maybe a little slightly worse news on that one. Luckily for me, I'm holding Swords to Plowshares. I could just start jamming Endurances, though. I'm going to Plow. I'm not going to ram Nadu into Daze. Another Frog. Okay, now we can go back into the Endurance plan. I'll land a player on Daze would be cool. Ponder. All right. If I Ponder and miss on the land, then I'm not holding up Endurance. But I think I have to Ponder. A removal spell. Okay. I'll take the removal spell, which also happens to check for Daze. And I have a redundant Nadu in hand now, or on top of the deck. So I could shove one into Daze. If it's countered, it's countered. Okay. That also went away. Continue the beats. And all those frogs ended up in exile. So I'm not even building Murktide here or anything. I could get Master of Waves, or whatever that card's called. Blood Moon creature. I know Master of Waves is a different card. I got rid of Fatal Push. That's a little spooky. It means that the hand has answers in it already. Brainstorm. The Wasteland here would actually be devastating, because my hand is all 3 drops, and so is the top of my deck. And this is exactly Murktide also. I could have pitched Endurance, but I don't even think that's good to do. Yeah, alright. Now we're going to get bashed by Murktide a lot and hope that the top of my deck is useful. Yep, alright, well, guess what, folks? Wasteland, Daze, still good in the post-Grief universe. Okay, I go to 12, I draw a brick, and then I go to 6, and then I get one more draw step this game. And opponent got rid of a Fatal Push last turn. Okay, a Bowmaster. This basically doesn't matter. Yeah, that's gone. I'm drawing another one. And now I have to rip a land, and opponent can't have any useful card in hand. Yeah, maybe in a era when I was more attuned to Murktide gaming, I would have pitched the Endurance in response to that Wasteland. I was busy groaning about the Wasteland itself. I'm going to take all of this damage. This list does not contain Cavern of Souls, unfortunately, which is kind of the card I need right now. Oh, come on. Come on. Come on. All right. I could have drawn Plow, but I've had enough. Lessons learned there are basically Wasteland Daze, Murktide, still good in the post-Grief universe, which I know a lot of people have been saying it's not Grief, it's Wasteland and Daze. Well, the trick is, if I had mulliganed to Delighted Halfling, if I had fetched basics a little more proactively, if I just had more mana sources in my deck, maybe I'm supposed to cantrip more aggressively to find Carpet of Flowers. There's stuff I can do to play around a deck like this, and once you get out of their squeeze, they're kind of anemic, and we just need to readjust to that. We forgot how good we had it when the best deck in the format just won by attacking and blocking and exchanging resources, as Garfield intended. And once we get back to that, I mean, it's not like I didn't have access to those cards. The deck has the 2 carpets that I brought in. I've got the dorks. Maybe I should have just made different decisions there. On to the final set. I'm on the draw in the final set of decks that we will play 2 matches with. I'll be on the play for the other match. I am going to keep my hand that is turn 1 Seasoned Dungeoneer. Understanding that he's Red Prison, like Chalice on 0 is pretty bad. Trinisphere would be bad. All right, looks like he just has none of the above. I'll take that. Cool. Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal, Seasoned Dungeoneer. And we just send it, right? There we go. I will tutor a Mountain to fix my mana. I already have a Plains. And I can follow up with 4th Aerolingus next turn and keep the beats coming. I don't know if he's going to be like okay, well, that kills my creature. I don't know if he's going to be like a 1-ring version of the deck or what. And if he could do this and play a Goblin Rabblemaster and take the initiative, that would be pretty good. Fable, okay. Luckily, not a haste creature. He is a creature, though. Okay, Forge versus Lost Well. There's no creatures I want to put counters on, so I guess I'm going Lost Well here. Feels bad, man. Chalice to the bottom. Touch the Spirit Realm actually seems relevant. Exile target artifact or creature. Those are all of the permanents that are in opponent's deck. Yeah, I'll keep that on top. And then I have to play the Plains, exile the Spirit Guide, and Lingus for 2. And do I want to introduce the Monarchy as well? I could attack with one of these and just see if he cares. All right, I'm going to send one in. Okay, so he chose to leave the Monarchy in the game. And now we're going to just ram back and forth into each other for a while. I wonder what this Great Furnace is doing. Is this like a Mox Opal fueled version of this? Or are painters involved? Why is Great Furnace in this deck? Oh, okay. We're just cubing with Gut True Soul Zealot. So that means the Goblin can attack. It can sack an artifact or creature to put a 4/1 into play. The treasure token certainly qualifies. I'm going to block here and then try to take back all of my objects next turn. Wow, what a tilt. I've never had this happen before. Opponent took the Monarch and the initiative from me, and I had to decide what order I wanted my triggers to resolve in. What a middle finger. Magic Online just waiting for me to click something when I'm busy getting obliterated. Okay, you get an extra card. City of Traders, Ancient Tomb. I can touch the Spirit Realm, exile Gut, attack, take back all the things. There's still a Menace Skeleton in play. I do get to go into the stash and create a treasure token, which can cast Fable the Mirror Breaker. Yeah, I guess I'm touching the Spirit Realm here. Get rid of Gut. I get the Monarch and the initiative back, which I will again lose next turn because of the Menace creature. I'd like this stash so I can cast another spell. City of Traders plus Treasure, Fable. I have 2 lands and a Chalice of the Void, all of which I'm happy to discard next turn. I go to 6 from this attack. I lose all the things again. I have to click on them again. Oh, that actually mattered. I probably should have... No, it doesn't, because you draw the card at the end of turn. Never mind. I was about to say it matters because they get to scry before they draw, but that would happen regardless. I'm going for the Forge anyway, just making the skeleton lethal. A reasonable plan. Plus 5 cards still in hand over there. Anything could happen. Could just get Furied into the dust. I put the tokens on Reflection and played the One Ring, so I can't take the things back. Cool. We're so dead. I wonder how much matchup knowledge is being leveraged here. Like, if he knows, if he doesn't know I'm this deck, does he keep and play this game the same way that he did? All right, I'm going to discard Mountain and Chalice. Or wait. I need this Mountain, don't I? I can attack with Goblin and get red. It's definitely Chalice. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I'm going to discard the Mountain and rely on the treasure token or drawing a different red source. Okay. Well, you're saying there's a chance. I have to figure out how to do this. I can attack with Goblin Shaman, sack the treasure, cast Solitude, exile Reflection. I think I'm going to pitch cast the Solitude. I'm going to attack with Goblin to make a treasure. Okay, no blocks. I respect it. And I get a spooky skeleton of my own when I cast my Caves of Chaos Adventurer. Because I take the initiative back the hard way. Opponent's still the Monarch, but I'm the initiative. That gives me a blocker. And I can pitch Solitude, exile the skeleton if he tries to make 2 of them. Okay. Pass. Cavern of Souls. This is 3 mana. Playing a Rabble Master. That makes Reflection have to attack. Do you have another mana to copy something? If so, what are you copying? Pitch to Spirit Guide. Copying Rabble Master. That makes a bunch of dopes. Yeah, I'm going to exile the Rabble Master in response. I actually have good blocks on the skeleton. Oh, good enough. I wouldn't say good. And I am going to complete a dungeon in my upkeep, which means Caves of Chaos Adventure is the full cast mode. I mean, the One Ring is still in play. Could tap it and just Fury my squad here still. But I think Fury is the only card I'm worried about at this phase of the game. But it's a big card to worry about. I basically lose if it's there. No, I literally lose if it's there. All right. Don't Fury me. Don't Fury me. Fingers crossed. Lotus Petal. It's not a Fury. Okay, now do you want a blocker or do you want to trade with 2 of my creatures? There's probably a really good combat math answer to that question that I am the attacker, so I don't have to figure out. Math is for blockers. Okay, we're on to the Dead 3. We're in there. Archon of Emeria, Caves of Chaos Adventure, Seasoned Dungeoneer. I don't think Archon does anything I care about specifically. Dungeoneer is super durable. They both go back into the cave. So with this One Ring pump in, maybe multiple spells in a turn is the only way that I lose. None of these have haste or anything. Yeah, I'll take Archon. Really wanted Solitude there. Lingus! Oh no, I have no red mana. Life is pain. Alright, you're at 17. I have 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I could post-combat Lingus for a bunch and just have a bunch of 2/2s around. Yeah, I'm sending the squad. Caves of Chaos Adventure, flip something I could cast for free. I will not be casting Chrome Mox this turn. The opponent goes to 4. And then City of Traders, City of Traders, City of Traders, white, red. You love it. The post-combat 4th Air Lingus for 4. With your opponent at 4 life. Just good deck building. Alright, send me Spirit Guide. That would have won me the game if it was in my hand a minute ago. One Ring, 8 cards in hand. This was why I got Archon of Emeria. You can only cast 1 of these. That one will, in fact, win the game, though. Bummer. Yeah, I needed, what, 1 less Ancient Tomb tap this game? 1 less damage somewhere. It got me for Xaxes. Alright, cool. Alright. Swords to Plowshares in. I believe Lauren of the Third Path comes in. All of these Chalice of the Voids come out. Where do we have room for the 5th cut? Because this cut is very obvious. These cards coming in is pretty clear. I'm not going to cut a Mana Source. Touch the Spirit Realm is strong. Archon of Emeria is strong. I'm on the play. Maybe on the draw I shave one of those. Yeah, maybe I shave a Touch and just upgrade my mana or my interaction. And Touch also flickers my creatures. I do know that's a thing. I just think it's less of a thing than Swords to Plowshares is. Okay, here we go. On the play, I have a hand with basic planes and a bunch of 3+ drops. I'll be mulliganing this. Can you pass the turn? Is that ever an option? I mean, this is a turn 2 Adventurer, but turn 2 Adventurer might be too slow if opponent starts on Rabblemaster. But we also saw my turn 1 thing get Furied last game, and then I was behind. I'm going to go to 5. I'm channeling my inner Phil Gallagher hand immediately with an unplayable hand. I will be at 4. And I guess I'm keeping this, because I literally have to at this point. What does this hand even do? I can 1, 2, 4 is so few cards. How do you even play Magic on 4 cards? This is untenable. I was trying to figure out if I could turn 1 4th Air Lingus for even 1, but I can't. Not on 4 cards. It would take 5 cards to do that. Opponent's just happily on 7 over there. Can't imagine ever winning this game. Why would anyone play an Ancient Tomb deck? Do I keep 3 mana in Seasoned Dungeoneer? Do I keep 3 mana in Archon of Emeria? There's no way that's good enough. I guess this is what I got. Cavern on Human, and pass the turn, and then lose. So I gotta draw a Soul Land, a Spirit Guide, a Lotus Petal, and also hope my opponent never does anything with their 7-card keep. Cavern on Goblin. Okay, well, let's try to play Magic. I'm going to tutor a Plains because it's the only option. And fingers crossed that this wins the game on its own. Hope my opponent Blood Moons me or something. They have a Goblin. Broadside Bombardiers. This can take the initiative. It doesn't currently have anything to throw. At least got that going for me. Okay, I get to attack with Dungeoneer and explore and get the Monarch back. Caves of Chaos Adventurer. No, do not put that in my graveyard. That one looks good, actually. And I'm just going to Forge and try to inflict as much damage as I can on my opponent and pass the turn. Getting my creature out of Fury range, out of Broadside range. And if they have Fury, they could deal 9, nope, 7 plus 4, 11 to the Seasoned Dungeoneer. I basically can never beat a Fury, so just don't have that card, please. Here comes the Bombardiers. You can forge or Lost Well here. Forging up means the hand's already perfect. Pass of the turn, suspicious. Yeah, gone, sure. Yeah, my creature's gone. Got another one. Do I think Dungeoneer or Adventurer is a better card to have in play, though? Dungeoneer has higher toughness. All right, I'll replay Dungeoneer. I would like to trap you. We're just in a slugfest at this point, which I am losing because Broadside Bombardiers is a sicko. It should probably be in my deck. Why isn't it in my deck? Do we just cut the Archon of Emirias or the Fables? I don't think you could cut Fable. Maybe you cut Chalice and put it in the sideboard and just be an attacking deck. And maybe Archon of Emiria is outdated and it should just be broadsides. Second broadside. Is this lethal? We've got 4, 6, 11. Yeah, I'm dead. Yeah, Broadside Bombardier is really good. Huge thing missing from my list here. Obviously, I did not put a ton of work into finding the optimal list of Boros Initiative because I hate this deck with a fiery passion. But yeah, this was a huge oversight. Who even cares? Yeah, dead for Xaxes even. In the 5 cards in hand could probably deal more damage, but cool. All right, I get to do one of those on the play now. Let's stick around and do that. I'm on the play for the final round, which is, again, this Stompy match. I have a turn 1 Fable, which is likely to create a turn 2 Dungeoneer. I will keep. But for turn 2 Dungeoneer, I either need the Goblin Shaman to survive and attack once, or have a mana source in my top 3 cards. Super likely to get there. Fourth Aerolingus is an awesome thing to have under Chrome Mox. Oh wait, Lotus Petal doesn't stick around. So I actually need a land and the Goblin to attack. Or 1 soul land. Still likely to get there, but the Lotus Petal is going to be gone. Chrome Mox pitching the best thing there is. Opponent also kept 7. Hate that for me. Human, Petal. I could Lingus for 1. I think that's worse than Fable though. I could make a 2/2 and draw a random card and introduce a volatile mechanic versus a deck full of haste. Or I could make a threat and guarantee more card selection. I'll do the second thing. City of Traders, Lotus Petal, Broadside Bombardiers. Here's this thing again. Getting in there. This is a great use of Chalice of the Void in these pseudo mirrors, or a card that is normally blank. Fury. Oh, that's even worse. Yeah, just 7 ball me. Yeah, kill my creature, fling Fury at me for 7. Has red just become better than initiative? Like the whole initiative mechanic, are we over it? Because it doesn't seem like it's very good compared to just taking infinite damage from these jerks. Okay. I did Fable into a soul land, and I went with Seasoned Dungeoneer as the thing that just hits the hardest versus their Broadside Bombardier. I know I just introduced the initiative, but my deck has to do that to win, basically. Can't block. You get a basic to go with the City of Traders that's in play. Oh, failed to find. So hand already has all the basics in it, or what's going on here? There's Chalice on 0. Bombardiered me for 2. Am I just dead somehow? What's going on here? I played another Chrome Mox. Okay. I am going to attack Simian Spirit Guide. I would like to put that into my grave. And then I think I actually want to forge. No, I can't block anyway. Because they can attack with Broadside and kill my Goblin Shaman token, which I also... Yeah, there's no good forge here. Does forge change the clock? Yes. Okay. I will forge onto Seasoned Dungeon. And then Fable will at least absorb some attack damage if I can get them to pump the brakes at all here. Oh, yeah, they'd be moving into Forge, so they can't get into Trap. They can trade with my whole board, or just pick off the Reflection and get through in combat. Yep, that was the choice. If there's a Fury... Nope, they just use that. Okay. Not worried about that so much. Was I supposed to Forge onto the Fable creature so I could have 2 Seasoned Dungeoneers next turn? That would have got me into Throne of the Dead 3. Yeah, that would have been way better. What am I even doing? All right. I'm going to discard Cavern of Souls and Romox. Seasoned Dungeoneer. Okay. That is actually a good one, because if I attack first, then I could advance in a room. I can deal 5 and then also draw a card this turn. Okay, combat has to happen first. 6 plus 5 is 11. 12, 13. Do I think they'll block? Does it matter? I guess I have to encourage them to block. But if they're forging anyway, it doesn't matter. If they're trapping, yeah, this Broadside Bombardiers basically just has me checkmated. Jealous of the Void, please put that in the graveyard. And maybe the Goblin is supposed to attack, just so I have one more mana for whatever I draw off the archive here. Yeah, if I end up 1 mana short, it'll be totally my fault. To archive something. I wasn't 1 mana short, but so if I had forged onto the Fable last turn, this would be smaller and could be dead. I don't know. All right, I'm dead. Can't beat Broadside Bombardier. Just massive, massive deck building failure for the matchup. Is Lauren even good? Seems to be just all goblins over there. Oh, I cut the wrong card. All goblins over there and not like Trinispheres and stuff. Yep, this is what we got. Now I gotta win 2 in a row on the draw. No colored mana here, mulligan. A Solitude. I will keep this one. And I guess I bottom the mountain. Wait, I lost. Why did I think I was on the draw? I clearly have lost my mind entirely here. I don't know what the fuck is going on anymore. Okay, I'm going to play Plateau and pass. After the pounding I've received in this league throughout, this is a gigantic case of I'm just living in a universe where when you're on the draw, you lose and you're also on the draw. Okay, City of Traders, exile Seasoned Dungeoneer. So I have a choice here. I can exile Seasoned Dungeoneer, take 2, plow the Magus, and then cast Caves of Chaos Adventure next turn. Or I could pitch Plow to Solitude and cast Caves of Chaos Adventure now. I think I would rather just hold up Plow, because this also sets my opponent back on mana. It took 3 cards to get here, with the Spirit Guide, the Ancient Tomb, and the Magus of the Moon. Could also just draw a land and cast every card in my deck. I will take the 2. I don't want to unlock his mana if he's stuck under his own thing right now. Cavern of Souls naming nothing. Okay, so that's a colorless land the rest of the game. End step Plow. Caracas. Okay. If I knew I was drawing Caracas, I would have just left the Magus in play, but obviously you can't know that stuff. I'm going to tutor a Plains just to keep my route to Solitude the best it can be. So there's no colored mana in play on the other opponent's side. They are a 1-ring deck, so that might not matter. Okay, 5 colorless mana available. Yep, 1 ring confirmed. I still get to forge onto my Adventurer and flip a card, unless it gets Furied right now. Opponent has taken a ton of damage from the Ancient Tombs, and the 1 ring's going to be ticking up as well. Naturally, there's a Fury over there. How could there not be? Guess I'm going into the Lost Well. And the trap might still be good. Like, I would have to forge onto nothing, get no value out of this room. But trap hitting opponent for 5 who's under double Ancient Tomb 1 ring might be a win condition. I don't know. I like seeing cards too much. Rewarded. Bottom, top, take a Fable. Fable. Make a Dingus. Pass. Drawing 3, 4, 5 cards a turn should find a red source and let them play the game. I hope it doesn't, but it is likely. Mox, they're in there. I do have 1 Null Rod in my sideboard. I wonder if that's supposed to be in for the 1 ring, but I also play a bunch of artifact mana, so it's kind of awkward. Rabble Master. Okay. I'm not dead to that one on its own. A 3rd Ancient Tomb is in play now. Goblin has to attack. I'm going to block. Okay. I get the stash. A little extra mana for the road. I don't think there's any legendary creatures that matter in these matchups, and I don't need this mountain anymore. Cool. All right. I have lands. Lots of them. Let's see if they want to trade Goblin Rabble Master for Goblin Shaman. Can't imagine they'd want to do this. All right. Got away with it. I can hardcast Solitude with what I have. You're at 9. Drawing with the ring, 5 cards in hand. Yeah, this aspect is unbeatable. Like, I did think about putting the One Ring in the deck, but the initiative creatures are the 4-drops that generate over time for me, where this build plays the One Ring. The One Ring might just be better. And obviously it's a sample size of 2 matches in exactly one matchup, and maybe the One Ring's bad in other spots where initiative creatures are great. It's hard to make any sweeping conclusions in this environment. Broadside Bombardiers and Gut Trussel Zealot. I am not killing the Rabble Master anyway. I am killing the Broadside Bombardiers, so we can go into combat. Bombardiers is the worst one, though they're all bad. So the Goblin token and the Rabble Master doesn't even have to attack because of Gut, but it will. Okay. So the token will sack into a 4/1 menace. We got a 3/2. Oh, sack the One Ring. I guess that makes sense too. All right, well, then I'll just block this one. You still get the initiative, but I get to keep my creature and gain some life rather than have to trade with Rabble Master. Okay. Fable flips. I would love to draw an initiative creature this turn. Nope, just a land. It's always a land. Why would I even pretend that I would draw a good card in this set? He just has my number today. Whatever Dark Pact Ecobaronen signed with the Magic Gods, it's coming in strong today. Okay. Trading Gut for Solitude. I get the initiative back, which makes a spooky skeleton. And I guess with another City of Traders in hand now, I can start playing out other lands. Not that I can do anything with them. 4 cards in hand over there, has 1 actual red source, 1 goblin red source, and then 7 colorless mana that he can only use 5 of. Magus of the Moon unlocks all of these ancient tombs into mana sources. That's really good. Another Rabble Master. This is a lot of goblin related damage. Is it enough to win though? I mean, I'm at 17, which is a lot. I have this menace creature. I have 2 menace creatures. All right, so we've got 4, 8, 9, 10. Forge happens. I'm just going to take 9 and try to win next turn. There's 1 card left in hand. We've seen Dead Gone in the deck. If it's dead, it kills my skeleton. I am defeated. It's a huge blowout if I try to copy. Can I draw a relevant spell? Fingers crossed. Please, Magic Gods, hook it up. That spell's really good. Okay. That means, what does that mean? So what I want to do is copy the skeleton. If his hand is Dead Gone, there's 1 card left over there, and he drew 1,000,000 off the ring, 19 cards into the deck. How bad is it for me if I just whiff? If I attack with everything, opponent's at 3. Okay, I'm going to try to make the copy. I know what the risk is, but this is where we are. Yep, obviously. He has had the correct card every single game of our whole set, so I should have played around that. 1, 2, 3, 4. I get to go into the throne, but my deck does not contain the homie Broadside Bombardier. Yeah. Sorry for making this part of the feature so bad. Just having the creature, the goblin in my deck would just give me so many ways to win here, and it so obviously should be in this deck, and I just so obviously misbuilt the deck. My apologies to everyone. Yeah, nothing with haste, nothing with damage, and there's enough shitters over there that they're going to get over the finish line. Okay, there's no basic lands left in my deck to search for. And I think I need this blocker more than I need the attacker. Yeah, the thing about that copy is even if we assume the best possible card is the one that's in his hand, what am I supposed to do? Just attack with those 4 creatures and block, Dead Gone anyway? They take 0, and we're in the same spot. It was just the card that had me beat. And when you can't functionally play around something, you just don't. And you have to hope they don't have it. Yep, and this is enough damage that the trap will kill me. Okay, we're going to debrief with Ecobaronen about these matchups, and he's probably going to gloat a lot, and that's fine. Let's go do that.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm here with BoshNRoll, and we just had a set of 4 legacy matches with 3 different decks living in the post-grief world. So let's get the elephant out of the room first here, Brian. No grief. We kind of tried and take a trip to the future here. How do you like the look of the future? Is the grass greener on the other side?
Well, you did register the same deck, but without grief. I thought that was really clever to put that into the rotation of what does the exact best deck right now look like if we just take grief out. So that was cool, and we'll talk about more about that in a minute. Um, the It does take a lot of pressure off. Uh, I thought I'd be able to set up a little better. That's why I played like the Nadu combo deck and the slower deck like Bug Beanstalk. And turns out Wasteland Days stifle still just, doesn't let you play Magic, but it doesn't let you play Magic in a way that is like interesting and back and forth and doesn't dovetail into a combo kill. And there was a lot of stuff that even though I just got my ass kicked for 2 hours, it was refreshing to play that Magic without grief around. How
Yeah,
did you
and
feel?
yeah. So exactly what you talked or alluded to in the end there, just the fact that you have more freedom when it comes to deck building. And so for me, I've been playing blue black for several months, so my creativity has been very, let's say, specialized within how do I tweak 1 or 2 slots week to week. But now it's like, oh, how can we utilize kind of forgotten archetypes or tier 2 strategies, and how can we kind of bring them to life, and how do they line up if you spend hours and hours on tuning them against the field? So the creativity part of it is actually the biggest one for me, where I generally enjoy all types of Magic. I could play Grief Mirrors all day, but this was also awesome for the creativity and just a good reminder of why I, loved Legacy in the first place. So that's actually the feeling I have right now. And I do agree, one player got rolled for 2 hours, but that's not really like I came here to play with prove a point with the blue black randomator deck and play some cool stuff that I haven't even considered to play for many months. And yeah, I want to return to that for sure. So the future looks bright in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Just getting into some of the details of our matches in the context of the grief conversation, I think it was our game 3 in round 1 where you were still doing the ReScaminator thing. I kept a hand where I said, like, even if he thought seizes me turn 1, that's the whole turn. Like, and you did, and it was
Yeah,
bad for me, but it wasn't like grief. Now what do I do with my mana? It was Thoughtseize pass, and now I get to play again. And just
yeah,
immediately the difference was felt and showcased in match 1 of our set here. The difference between a grief and a Thoughtseize. It's a lot.
yeah. I agree about that. Thoughtseize is the, let's say, like the middle of a grief. Grief can be way better. Grief can be worse if you go on mask mode with grief. Sure, you have an extra mana, but you're down on cards, etc. But obviously, it's very potent with reanimate. We all know that. And Thoughtseize, it's actually funny from your point of view. It's like, okay, I'll take it. Like, let's take my medicine here with a Thoughtseize. But if you went grief, I would be scared, right? That is actually a very good illustration of what it feels like to get grief twice, and always like the threat of that looming, no matter which deck you play, basically.
Right. And in the context of a deck with reanimate and animate dead in it, the Thoughtseize doesn't represent something floating in the graveyard. Even if you do, like one of the strengths of Rescaminator and the difference between the legacy shell and the modern one is the modern one, you have to have the not dead after all right away. It has to happen immediately, or else that grief is just in the graveyard and it was a 2 for 1. The You can 1 for 2 me now and then get your 2 cards back later on turn 3, 4, 5 whenever you draw reanimate in the future, and just
Yep,
take the pressure off now and then add pressure when you get around to it. And
definitely.
Thoughtseize is just a 1 for 1. You spent mana, I didn't, and we're both down a card, and my best card's gone, but you're down 2 life, and it's a much more fair exchange. And Thoughtseize is an insane Magic card. Like I think the best individual card in Pioneer, except maybe like Treasure Cruise. Like it's those two. And
Yeah,
Thoughtseize from the moment it was printed in Lorwyn was like $25 off the spoiler. It immediately made its way all the way back to Legacy and Vintage. Like
yep.
Thoughtseize is one of the best interactive spells ever printed. And I'm
Yep.
talking about it like, what a relief. It's just Thoughtseize. Like,
Yes, that is
clearly,
a
Grief is
great
too
point.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, great point. That this card will take this any day of the week and be happy to play it, but hasn't been good enough for a while, and that says a lot about Grief because this card is already a 9 out of 10 card, right? So yeah, great perspective. I enjoy that as well, and I agree about the Grief lying around in the yard. In my deck building, I cut and animate that to kind of hedge a little bit with the ratio. Like I did some small tweaks here and there, but mainly the deck is intact because I still believe it's going to be strong. Again, using the same logic, if that's the case, then holy crap, the deck was good before the ban, right? If we can still play it post ban and it's still awesome. It reminds me of the modern ban of Deathrite Shaman. People just kept playing, Jund in modern or in Legacy with the Deathrite ban. People just played Grixis Control and it was still good. So what does that tell us about pre-ban power level? So yeah, great. I love that perspective. That's actually awesome. I never thought about it that way. Like if this is true, then this must be obscene, right? It's just solid logic.
Yeah. Another thing that occurs to me when we're talking about Thoughtseize versus Grief is Faithless Looting in Modern, back when Phoenix was the #1 deck. Faithless Looting, draw 2, discard 2, would have been better than 1 red, draw 2 cards in that format without the discard, because what the leftovers mattered for the synergies of the deck and the context of the format. And Grief, if you just compare it to Unmask 1 versus 1, you
Yep.
don't just put Unmask into Rescaminator and it's the same deck, because that something leaving around, that 3/2 in the graveyard that turns on all these other synergies, uh, is just, it is the Faithless Looting effect. Like, just two for one myself, and then whenever there's something going on, it's the same as Faithless Looting, which is card negative, but something's laying around for later. And
Yeah. Yeah,
that,
that's a
yeah,
great example of how context matters a lot, and you can't just, evaluate the cards on the surface. So I definitely agree about that. I want to talk a little bit about your deck choices. Let's see. The first deck you had up was the Beanstalk deck. So this is my opinion. I've never thought that playing Sultai Beanstalk was like exciting when I could play with Leyline Binding in my Beanstalk deck. So can you talk a little bit about like how is that deck on the scale of, let's say Beanstalk is a control deck and Delver is a tempo deck? Then what about where do you put this Sultai Beanstalk deck?
yeah, Beanstalk, Sultai Beanstalk is intentionally in between those two things. When you need to sideboard out your wastelands and sideboard in some basic lands and then just play a control game, you have that mode. When you want to just have a bunch of Dazes, Wasteland, Stifles, and Murktide on turn 3, you could do that. You can even board out your Beanstalks if you just need to be that deck. And that was the goal of that. And back at Eternal Weekend, 8 months ago at this point,
Yep.
more than half a year ago, uh, the 4 and 5 color Beanstalk decks were known entities. And the Sultai Beanstalk deck that Pokemoki and I did a bunch of work on,
I
we just
remember, yeah.
wastelanded the white sources out of the 4 and 5 color builds, and then their whole deck didn't work. And we were favored in the control version versus our tempo
Yeah.
version because we had their same draw engine, but we could kill them and they couldn't kill us.
Right.
And there's weak points where like Fatal Push doesn't kill Murktide Regent, or Minsc and Boo, or whatever mattered at the time, where
Yep.
Leyline Binding would be good, but you have better mana, you have cheaper spells, and that deck did not hang. The Sultai Beanstalk deck did not hang versus Rescaminator, because Rescaminator is doing what Sultai Beanstalk did, but better. Instead
Yep.
of a tempo deck that could play control, it's a combo deck that could play tempo. And it just took our whole spectrum of operation and condensed it into being several
Yep.
turns faster. And
Yeah, for sure.
not an option when Grief around.
No, that's interesting because I've never, seen the appeal, and I only, look at Legacy and like on paper, and I'm like, oh, should I play this? Should I play that? And I've just never found that deck like too dangerous. But when you apply that context of the known entity, you want to have a leg up in the Beanstalk versus Beanstalk world, then that makes sense why the deck, saw the face of Earth, where it hasn't really seen play for a while, or at least hasn't done well, to my knowledge. So I'm excited to see if that deck comes back. That could be interesting. Next up, you had the Bant deck, and
Yep.
that's actually a deck I thought about building, but I would have built it with 80 cards because I feel like I want like my Zenith package cards to not show up naturally that often, if that makes sense. There's like probably a few stinkers in between. Did you play it? Did you build it like strictly value wise, or what did your exact build look like?
This build is just from Burnt Taco on MTGO,
Ah,
who's
perfect.
been crushing with various Nadu shells from
Yep.
release weekend. And
Yeah.
I have played Yorion. I've played like the big clunky grindy version. I've played Yorion Breakfast that is more combo. I've played 60
Yep.
card Nadu Breakfast. I've played Nadu Stoneblade that's mostly a mid-range deck but can do Nadu stuff. I've
Yep.
played the Turbo Zenith 60 card Nadu build, which is what I did today. And I just like all of those builds. I like that Nadu, you can be a Thassa's Oracle deck, or you could be a deck with like Elvish Reclaimer in it. Like, how fast do you want to go? How many engines do you want in your deck? And I just really like the Zenith build. I like pushing in, but of course it does have that problem you described, where I believe in one of our games I had Bristly Bill and Springheart and Tuco in my hand, and you were
Yeah.
attacking me with Psychic Frog. So
Yeah.
that does happen for sure.
Yeah, there's a little bit of the individual card quality that's always not the best when you play those decks, because then you draw, I don't know which mana dorks you used. You probably had like halflings in there.
Yep.
So then you draw a halfling on turn 5. That's not the best. Then you draw some bullet. That's not the best. Then you draw 2 of the nomad and core. You actually drew 3, and that was like kind of embarrassing. There's always a little bit of individual card quality versus this engine that can take over games. Which maybe is true for most decks, but especially for that deck, I mean, we just saw it in the games that drawing 3 nomads and core is not going to do it in a mid-range war, basically.
Yeah. And I just wanted one of my decks to showcase something new that's gets a little better, because my other two decks were 8, 9, 10 months old, and they're just coming back. But and Nadu is new, it's exciting. There's still a lot of space to explore there, and I think Nadu is appropriate for Legacy. I don't
Yep.
think we're ever gonna get that one banned. I don't even know if it's good in Legacy, much less bannable, but it's a
Right.
fun new shell to explore, which is
Yeah,
why I
we're
wanted to
we're
go there.
exploring new stuff right now. Things will get optimized. That's how Magic works these days. That's another point of my theory is there will be a new best deck because people work so hard on finding it, and once they do, the power of social media, stuff like that will just push more people to play a certain deck, and then it will win more, and then it can become kind of a cascade. That's my theory anyway. That this would never have happened 15 years ago. That like this blue black deck would be 40% of the metagame or whatever it was. It's also a sign of the times, so to speak. We've
Yeah,
had like multiple decks throughout history. I remember Amulet Titan in Modern with Summer Bloom was like a 10% deck where it was completely insane looking in the back mirror. Now we had Miracles in Legacy, Deathrite Shaman decks in Legacy. We saw way less play than they quote unquote should, in my opinion, at least.
mhm. Yeah, for sure.
How did you like my Gut, by the way? I love Gut from Cube, and I actually think it has legs in Legacy as well. How do you like that card?
That's what I said when you cast it. I was like, oh, he's just cubing over there. And uh, in exactly that matchup that we were just playing, it was really good. Like, there's just a bunch of random material laying around. It's kind of like Broadside Bombardiers number 5 and 6, or however many you're playing,
Yep.
uh, which was the best card in that set. Um, my list actually didn't include it, which was a huge mistake. I just went back to Eternal Weekend last year and was like, okay, let's look at what Boros Initiative decks looked like back then, and
Right.
try to. And then I thought, like, Modern Horizons 3 doesn't really have anything for this. Like, Witch Enchanter, that's not really something we want in this build. And
Right.
I looked at all the new cards, and I looked at the old builds, and I missed the things that happened in the middle. And Broadside Bombardiers is just so obviously belongs in that deck, and was a huge mistake not to include it. But
Yeah,
that's the
the
sign that
menace.
right. That's the sort of thing that would need to be updated. Uh, but another thing revelation I had was I thought that initiative was pushed out because Grief, your initiative creature reanimated on turn 1, is
Yeah.
unplayable in the format where
Yeah.
Grief exists. But
Yeah.
when I was trying to cast initiative creatures and you were casting the One Ring, I was like, wait, is that 4-drop better than my 4-drops? Should we just be doing that? And your
That's
mana was
actually a good
better.
point.
Yeah, there
That's
was.
actually a good point. The One Ring is just a card where when it got printed, a lot of decks want to play it. Too many decks wanted to play it, in my opinion. Then it kind of got forgotten, and now it's like a modern card. And then every now and then it shows up in some artifact combo decks, but truth is probably it's like the news Jays is Ace to Mind Sculpt and it should be in more decks than it currently is, which is kind of a funny evolution of the card being legal, you know? I remember people played it in like Beanstalk decks right out the gates with this, which didn't make much sense. Like it was basically just I can produce 4 mana sometimes, and I used to love Jace the Mind Sculpt, but let's just jam this card. But yeah, I just play a few in that deck. I think it's just absurd with Bombardier and Gut. Like the synergy is just too strong. I think I even had. Did I lethal with the One Ring at some point, or at least I got rid of a One Ring that would have killed me? Like just everything also just clicked for me in the matches today. Let's not beat around the bush. I mean, I executed fine, but I had very good working conditions with my draws and your draws, like how they lined up.
You did both of those things. In our last game, you were kind of bleeding out to the ring and triple Ancient Tomb, and then you got rid of your own ring to take the pressure off. And in the set before that, I had the board completely stable, and you could only cast one spell that turn from Archon of Emeria. You were not getting through in combat. I had too many blockers. I was at exactly 6, and you drew Broadside Bombardier and threw the ring at me. And that was so obviously a great card for that archetype, the whole Ancient Tomb archetype. And I actually apologized to my viewers. I was like, sorry, this isn't in the deck. It was a huge mistake. You know, it should so clearly be that instead of Archon of Emeria in the list that I played.
Yeah, that card is quite awesome. Like it can just be tough to evaluate new aggressive cards, but I guess that's the advantage of having played 1,000 cube matches. Like you just see so many scenarios with these cards, and Bombardier is the obvious one, and Gut is kind of I want to bring that card to Constructed. I think it has legs. Like it can break through a lot of board stalls. It has to do a lot with Orcus Bowmasters and how much that card kind of comes back, because having the skeleton killed is not the best thing that can happen. But yeah, I'm excited for that deck.
Yeah, it's gonna be, well, that was one of the decks that stood up to ReScaminator for a while, and then ReScaminator got Psychic Frog, and then the matchup got bad again. So Red Prison, that's going to be that's always going to be a deck in Legacy. It's always going to be somewhere in the top, 4 to 15 decks, somewhere in there. And people are going to play it. So finding the right shell, finding ways to do stuff like race a Psychic Frog, and a 4/1 menace gets around Psychic Frog. You're not stuck behind it. So that could be
I'm actually excited, especially in the Eldrazi world, of recent results. Last weekend's challenges kind of showed that Eldrazi's are on the rise, and I don't think that can beat Turn 1 Blood Moon. Like, it's a huge if you're up in the Ancient Tomb mirror with just this slam dunk card, and your shell is decent across the field, right? The biggest problem with Mono Red is you can't really answer that many. If the metagame is too big, you can't answer too many decks at the same time. So that's why when the metagame is small, you need to play 4 Unlicensed Hearse in the main deck. That's cool. But what if you also need Trinisphere against some other decks, and also need more than 4 Blood Moons against other decks, right? Then you're just spread too thin. So if the metagame becomes defined to a point where the red deck can fit enough haymakers in the main deck, I'm very excited for that deck.
Yeah, and that's a great general lesson for any deck, any control deck, any prison deck, any. There's some decks like I don't know, like Doomsday or like ReScaminator now, where the slots are really tight and the package is very clear. There's some room for innovation, but really you could play a stock list week to week and do fine. But a deck like Red Prison or a deck like Sultai Beanstalk, like how many Dazes, Spell Pierces, Stifles, Bowmasters, Frogs am I playing this week? Because it all matters. How many basics are in the 75? How many Surveil lands? That could change week to week and really change your win rate. So going into a new, more open format, all of those brewers or deck specialists are going to be rewarded for specializing in the deck, or punished if they're just copying lists and trying to play Legacy.
Oh, for sure. By the way, I chuckled a bit at we both tried to get each other with Stifle, which is I just play one Stifle in my blue-black deck, and I think it got you at some point. Yeah, it did. And you got me with another Stifle on an anime dead where I thought I was winning the game. So pretty cool back and forth with the stifling.
Yeah, I play one Stifle in my list as well, and then you stifled me on the game where you went Wasteland Stifle, Wasteland Daze, and I was dead. So yeah,
that's the Canadian threshold formula.
Yep, still strong. But Psychic Frog, That's the last big thing I really want to talk about here.
Yep.
It was in one of my decks. It was in two of your decks. It
Yeah.
was phenomenal every time it showed up.
Yeah.
And the game where you had Frog into my Fatal Push and then double days, I actually
Mhm.
had Veil of Summer to back up my Fatal Push. If you just Force of Willed or something, I would have been fine, but it was double days exactly.
Very
So
nice. Very nice.
yep, dodged that one. But
Oh yeah.
like I said at the time when you did it, I was like, okay, so he thinks going down to 0 permanence and is the right bet on Psychic Frog, and it totally was. Like that
Yep.
thing.
If I get in the first swing and you kill it, I think it's like a wash. But if I get in the
Yeah.
second hit, it's way better for me. That's basically how I analyzed it.
Right, and you kind of got like a mini like gush psychotog effect there too, because Days picking up the 2 lands also were 2 more power and toughness that I had to think about when I played my own Frog the next turn.
Yep.
Where if you were down 2 cards, we could have had, you know, a battle of who wants to discard the most and
Yep.
have a Frog around, but you
I
just
was
had
ahead
more
on
cards than me.
cards there, and I could have gotten tempted to, let's say I didn't double days, I could have gotten tempted to develop more lands, and as a result, I would have had a smaller hand. So you're definitely right. All of a sudden, I have 6 cards to your 4, and I can kind of free roll attack and then play interaction stuff afterwards. And you're just on the back foot there.
Yep. Yeah, the Frog versus Frog combat where you've drawn some cards, which puts you ahead immediately, and then it makes it hard for my frogs to ever block. So I might as well attack with them. And now I have a handful of cards, and uh, answering Psychic Frog is going to be a big part of the format moving forward. Like stuff like Lightning Bolt might just not even
Yeah.
see play. If like Grixis Delver mirrors come down to Frog, it might be main deck Pyroblast. It might be Fatal Push. Maybe it's Unholy Heat. And if you have 6 cards to discard, good job, but you're gonna need them.
I was
So
actually going to say that. I had a game against Duke 12, one of the top dogs on Magic Online, and he unholy heated, and I just discarded 6 cards, and I had a 7/8,
I would
and
too.
that
Yeah.
worked.
Yep.
That worked. But yeah, you're definitely right. The soft removal is like force your opponent to discard 2 cards is not going to do anything if it's just going to attack like the Ophidian mode. It's going to buy that back so fast, and the fact that the counters stay on the creature is just amazing to think about. I'm not going to say I forget it, but I don't think about it enough. Let me put it that way. It's just so strong.
Yeah, absolutely. So learning how to do that combat math is going to be an important legacy skill, and building your decks to actually remove a frog of any size is going to be an important skill moving forward.
Yeah, great point.
Cool.
But I don't know, Brian. Maybe we have reached the end here. Maybe you wanna close us off here.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this. This was your idea. Thanks for inviting me to do it. It's a fun little feature, and thanks for making it quick and just putting me out of my misery in every single game as fast as possible.
Yeah, more or less. I had a lot of fun as well. I like the idea of showcasing different stuff, especially when we can wrap it up and go with a bit like this to end off the video. That's just my favorite thing about Magic is the theory, the thoughts that went into it, how we saw things play out, how they did play out, what we can learn moving forward. Magic is just such a deep game, and yeah, I really enjoyed this as well. Thanks so much for your time, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, thanks for watching. We're out of here.